New York City had its usual morning rhythm. Honking taxis, the rumbling subway beneath the streets, the smell of fresh bagels drifting from corner shops, and the constant rush of people trying to reach work on time. The city never slept, but it also never stopped surprising its people. Today, however, something truly unexpected was circulating through media offices. Judge Judy is giving a special interview today. Producers, journalists, and bloggers were buzzing with curiosity. Judge Judith Sheindlin, famously sharp-tongued, famously straightforward, famously intimidating, did not usually give special interviews. Her public persona was carved out of decades of courtroom grit. But this interview was for a podcast known as Voices of Harmony, a platform dedicated to interfaith dialogue, cultural understanding, breaking stereotypes, showcasing unheard voices. Why would Judge Judy, a figure known more for stern judgments than soft discussions, choose this platform? Juniper Fields, the podcast's producer, stood in the sound studio giving instructions. "Everyone, listen up," she said. "Today is important. Judge Judy reached out herself. She said she wants to talk about misunderstanding, especially surrounding Muslims." The team froze. Even Mark, the senior editor who hardly reacted to anything, raised an eyebrow. Judge Judy talking about religion? And that too, Islam. That's unexpected. Juniper nodded. "Exactly. That's why it matters." Judge Judy sat in the green room, reading over a few notes her assistant had prepared. Her glasses sat low on her nose. She looked every bit like the strict judge Americans watched for years. Sharp gaze, unshakable posture. But something about her was different today. Her granddaughter, Emma, sat beside her. Emma was a sociology student, deeply interested in cultures and religions. She had been volunteering at a cultural center in Queens for months. "Emma, Grandma, are you sure you want to do this? People might misinterpret." Judy looked at her slowly, smiling just slightly. "Emma, I'm 82 years old. I've spent my whole life speaking my mind, but I've also spent it dealing with people, real people, different backgrounds, different beliefs." She paused. "I've seen so much ugliness come from ignorance, so much fear, and too many times Muslims have been painted unfairly. I want to say something different today." Emma leaned back, surprised yet proud. "I think people need to hear this from someone like you." Judy nodded. Her strong fingers tapped the folder gently. "Then let's give them something worth listening to." The studio lights flickered on. The soundboard operator signaled. Juniper stepped forward. "Judge Judy, whenever you're ready." Judy took a breath and faced the microphone. The host, Malik Henderson, a calm, articulate African-American journalist known for his gentle interviewing style, smiled warmly. "It's an honor to have you here, Judge Judy." "Thank you, Malik." After a few warm-up questions about her career, Malik leaned forward. "Judge Judy, you said you wanted today's discussion to focus on Muslims. May I ask why?" There was a tense silence. Judy adjusted her glasses, looked straight into the camera, and said, "Because I think a lot of Americans misunderstand Muslims, and I think it's time someone like me, someone they've watched for years, tells them the truth." Malik blinked, stunned that she was being so direct. "And what truth is that?" he asked. Judy's voice didn't tremble. It didn't soften. It simply became honest. That Muslims are some of the most family-oriented, respectful, community-driven people I've ever met. And fear has blinded too many people from seeing that. The studio froze. Even the camera operator forgot to blink.
Malik leaned in. "That's not a perspective many hear often. Have you had personal experiences?" Judge Judy smiled for the first time. "Yes, and I've never shared this publicly." She sat up straighter. "A few years ago, I had a case involving a young Muslim woman. She wore a hijab. She was soft-spoken, very respectful. Her issue wasn't serious, just a small dispute. But what struck me wasn't the case. It was her parents waiting outside the court. Judy continued. They stood the entire time while she was inside. Her father kept praying quietly. Her mother kept whispering encouragement. When they saw their daughter come out, they both hugged her as if she had returned from war. Judy paused. Her voice softened. In all my decades on the bench, I have rarely seen such raw love and respect within a family. Malik nodded deeply. And that changed something for you? It reminded me, Judy said, that we judge too quickly. We paint entire communities using the brush of fear. She tilted her head. Muslims are not new to America. They've been part of this country for centuries. Teachers, doctors, business owners, soldiers. But people only focus on a few headlines. Judy then shared another story. One morning, I took a cab. Yes, sometimes I still take cabs, because my car was stuck in a snowstorm. The driver was a middle-aged Muslim man. His name was Samir. She chuckled. He recognized me immediately, but instead of talking about my show, he asked me a question. Judge, do you think people will ever stop being afraid of us? She paused dramatically. That question hit me harder than any case I ever judged. The studio fell silent. I asked him why he felt that way, and he told me. His children were bullied in school, his wife avoided shopping malls alone, and himself was called names while simply doing his job. Judy looked directly at the camera. That taxi ride lasted 35 minutes, but the guilt I felt has lasted years. Malik smiled. Your granddaughter Emma also works closely with Muslim communities, right? Judy's eyes softened again. Yes, she's the reason I'm here today. Emma waved shyly from behind the camera. Judy continued. When Emma started volunteering at a cultural center in Queens, she would come home every day with stories. Stories of kindness, stories of hospitality, stories of resilience. One day, Emma had met an elderly Muslim woman who had fled war and rebuilt her life from scratch. She gifted Emma a handmade scarf and told her, "You are like my own granddaughter now." Judy took a breath. I watched my granddaughter grow through these experiences, and I realized I was growing too. Malik leaned back. Judge Judy, what do you think the biggest misunderstanding is? She answered without hesitation. That Muslims are somehow different. They're not. They want what every family wants. Peace, safety, respect, opportunity. She raised a finger the same way she used to in the courtroom. And anyone who thinks otherwise hasn't met enough Muslims. Malik laughed lightly, but respectfully. Judy added, I've lived long enough to know that ignorance is the easiest road. Understanding requires effort. While the interview was still ongoing, the studio team noticed comments flooding the livestream chat. Wow, didn't expect this from Judge Judy. Respect. She's right. We judge too quickly. As a Muslim, this means a lot. I'm crying right now. She's bridging gaps. Juniper's eyes widened as she watched thousands of viewers typing. This is going viral, she whispered. And she was right. Something genuine was happening. A shift, a conversation, a moment of understanding, the kind that doesn't happen every day.
Judy shared another story, this one personal. I was in Florida once, visiting a friend. She wasn't feeling well, so I drove her to an urgent care clinic. The nurse who checked us in was a Muslim woman. Hijab, warm smile, gentle voice. Judy looked nostalgic for a moment. She treated my friend like family, not because we were important, not because she recognized me, but because caring for people was in her nature. Malik nodded. And after that? I asked her where she was from, Judy replied. She said she was born in Michigan. Her parents immigrated decades ago. She paused. That's when it hit me. Most Muslims in America are just Americans, ordinary people, trying to live their lives. Malik looked intrigued. I heard you once attended a community event in Queens. Is that true? Judy chuckled softly. Oh, yes, that was an experience. Emma had invited her to a Ramadan iftar event at the cultural center where she volunteered. At first, I wasn't sure what to expect. I imagined it like a formal religious gathering, quiet, serious, maybe even somber. She laughed. But it was the opposite. Children running around, families chatting, people smiling, the smell of delicious food everywhere. It felt like a giant family reunion. The highlight for her was when a grandmotherly figure approached her. She said, "You are our guest today. You eat first." I insisted she should go ahead, but she refused, lovingly but firmly. Judy shrugged. This hospitality? It reminded me of my own upbringing. My mother would never let a guest leave hungry. Malik smiled warmly. Love looks the same everywhere. Exactly, Judy nodded, and sometimes we forget that. Malik shifted gears. Judge Judy, not everyone in America feels the way you do. Many still hold fears and biases. What would you say to them? Her eyes sharpened with the same intensity viewers knew from her show. She would say this: fear is easy. Understanding is hard. She pointed toward the camera. And if you choose fear without ever meeting the people you're afraid of, that says more about you than them. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The message was powerful enough. Judy then shared a story she had kept private for years. Once, I received a letter from a Muslim soldier serving overseas. He wrote that he watched my show during breaks, and it reminded him of home. She smiled sadly. He thanked me for making me laugh, even when he was thousands of miles from his family. Judy inhaled deeply. That letter made me realize something important. Muslims aren't just part of America. They serve America. They protect America. They sacrifice like everyone else. Malik nodded solemnly. That's a perspective many forget. Yes, Judy said softly, and forgetting is dangerous. The interview had now been going on for nearly 45 minutes, but instead of slowing down, it was gaining emotional intensity. Malik asked, Judge Judy, do you think your voice can help change public perception? Judy raised an eyebrow. I'm not claiming to change the world, Malik. I'm just telling the truth. She leaned closer. But if even one person watching today stops and thinks before judging an entire community, then this interview was worth it. Malik clapped lightly. That's beautifully said. Judy chuckled. I'm full of surprises. As the interview neared the end, Juniper received a notification on her phone. She gasped. Malik, she whispered urgently. The mayor's office is watching. Malik blinked. What? Juniper nodded, pointing to the screen showing the live comments. The mayor's official account had commented, This is one of the most important conversations of the year. Thank you, Judge Judy. Judy raised her eyebrows when Malik read it aloud. Well, she said with a smirk, looks like I've started something. Malik nodded. Something good. The interview wrapped with a warm handshake between Malik and Judge Judy, but long after the camera stopped rolling, the conversation kept echoing across social media. Within 10 minutes, hashtag Judge Judy Speaks, hashtag Voices of Harmony, and hashtag Understanding Muslims began trending. People were posting clips, quotes, and reactions, but the most surprising part wasn't the number of comments, it was their tone. Not hateful, not divided, not argumentative, just reflective. Many wrote, I never knew she had so much empathy. This interview made me rethink things. Respect to Judge Judy for speaking truth. Judy stepped out of the studio unaware of the growing storm of positivity behind her. She simply adjusted her scarf and turned to Emma. "Well," she said with a smirk, "was that good enough?" Emma hugged her tightly. "Grandma, that was more than good. That was history." Judy decided to take a walk before heading home. The New York air was brisk but refreshing. As she strolled through Bryant Park, a small group of young women approached her. They wore colorful hijabs and warm smiles. "Judge Judy?" one of them asked shyly. Judy nodded. "We just watched your interview," another girl said. "Thank you. You have no idea what it meant." Judy placed a gentle hand on the girl's shoulder. "Oh, I think I have some idea," she said warmly. The girls laughed softly, overwhelmed. "We grew up watching you," one said. "But today, we saw another side of you." Judy chuckled. "I didn't change. I just shared more." They posed for a photo, exchanged thanks, and the girls walked away smiling. Emma whispered, "You're trending, Grandma." Judy rolled her eyes. "Oh dear, please not TikTok." Emma burst out laughing. Later that evening, Judy's phone rang. It was Howard, an old colleague from her courtroom days. "Judy," he said, "I watched your interview." She braced herself, expecting criticism. Old judges weren't known for embracing new conversations. But Howard surprised her. "That was the most honest thing I've seen on television in years," he said. "About time someone said it." Judy was silent for a moment. "You're not offended?" she asked. "Offended?" he scoffed. "I'm proud. You used your voice for something bigger than entertainment." Judy sighed with relief. "Thank you, Howard." "Don't thank me," he said. "Just promise me you'll keep speaking like this." Judy smiled. "We'll see." Meanwhile, at the Queen's Cultural Center, families gathered around screens to rewatch the interview. Children sat cross-legged on the carpet. Mothers wiped tears from their eyes. Elderly uncles nodded thoughtfully. One woman said, "She spoke like she knew our hearts." Another added, "She saw us as humans. That is all we ever wanted." A young boy, no older than 10, looked up to his father and asked, "Baba, why don't more people talk like her?" The father smiled sadly. "They will, inshallah. It takes one brave voice to make others brave." Back at the studio, Malik sat alone in the now empty room. The lights were off, but the glow from his laptop illuminated his thoughtful face. He replayed the interview in his mind. He had interviewed countless personalities, politicians, actors, activists, authors, but none had struck him quite like this. It wasn't because Judge Judy was famous. It wasn't because she was unexpected. It was because she was sincere. He opened his notebook and wrote, "Real change begins when someone respected chooses truth over silence." He closed the notebook gently. This interview would be remembered, not because it was dramatic, but because it was human. The next morning, Juniper arrived early at the studio. She was surprised to find someone waiting at the door, a middle-aged Muslim woman wearing a navy blue abaya. "Can I help you?" Juniper asked politely. The woman smiled. "I'm sorry to come unannounced. I just wanted to thank the team for the interview yesterday." Juniper blinked in surprise. "Thank us?" "Yes," the woman nodded. "My daughter watched the interview. She has been struggling at school, feeling different, feeling unwanted." Her eyes glistened. But after watching Judge Judy speak so kindly, she said she felt proud for the first time. Juniper felt her heart twist. "That means a lot," she said warmly. "Would you like to leave a message for the team?" The woman shook her head. "No, I've already said what needed to be said." She turned to leave but then added, "Tell Judge Judy that she healed something in my home." Juniper swallowed hard.
I will. Lucinda, one of the studio's senior camera operators, sat in the break room watching the clip on her phone. She had been with the podcast for years. She had seen emotional interviews, political interviews, heated debates, but never something like this. Her coworker Darren walked in. "You're watching."
The next morning, Judy sat at her kitchen table sipping her usual black coffee. The morning sunlight filtered in through sheer curtains, painting soft patterns on the table. She picked up her iPad to scroll through the news, but her inbox caught her eye. Over 1,200 unread emails. Her assistant had organized many of them under the label Voices of Harmony Interview. Curious, she opened the folder. The first email read, "Dear Judge Judy, I am a Muslim high school teacher. Yesterday, your interview brought tears to my eyes. Thank you for showing the world who we really are." The next said, "My parents are Muslim immigrants. They watched your interview and cried. They said, 'Finally, someone sees us.' Another, 'I was bullied for wearing hijab in 7th grade. People called me names I didn't understand. Your words made me feel visible." Judy shook her head slowly. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't expected the wave of emotion, the gratitude, the stories. She hadn't expected to touch so many hearts. Emma entered the kitchen, hair still messy from sleep. "Whoa," she said, noticing Judy's expression. "You okay?" Judy handed her the iPad. "Read." Emma scrolled, and her eyes widened. "Grandma, this is incredible." Judy nodded slowly. Incredible and humbling. Later that afternoon, Judy received a call from a well-known TV network host, Cynthia Rhodes. "Judy," Cynthia said excitedly, "I watched your interview. My entire team watched it. This is the conversation America needs." Judy smiled politely. "Thank you, Cynthia, but I didn't do anything extraordinary. I just spoke from the heart." "That's exactly why it resonated," Cynthia insisted. "People trust you. They listen when you speak." Cynthia then made an unexpected offer. "We'd love to have you on our primetime show. Would you be open to discussing cultural understanding, maybe even highlighting Muslim contributions to America?" Judy paused. It wasn't that she was afraid. She simply wasn't seeking attention. She wasn't trying to be a crusader. She was just trying to be honest. "Let me think about it," she replied. Cynthia understood. "I'll wait. And Judy, whatever you decide, thank you for yesterday." Judy hung up and sighed. She knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something bigger. At the Cultural Center in Queens, excitement buzzed around the halls. Families, volunteers, and coordinators gathered in the activity room. A young volunteer named Amina held up a printed flyer. "We're going to host an appreciation event for Judge Judy." The room erupted with applause. "She reminded the world who we are. She made my children feel proud. She stood up for us." The center director, a dignified elderly man named Yusuf, raised his hands to quiet the room. "Judge Judy does not know us," he said gently, "but she defended our honor as if she did." He wiped a tear from the corner of his eye. "We cannot repay her, but we can thank her." The community began planning. Food from different Muslim cultures, handmade gifts, letters written by the children, a framed plaque with the words, "Thank you for seeing us." Back in the studio, Malik reviewed the interview footage for an extended cut, but as he watched Judy speak, something stirred inside him, something he hadn't expected. He remembered his own experiences growing up as a Black teenager in America. People clutching their bags when he walked by,
teachers assuming he'd fail, strangers making judgments before knowing him. The way Judy spoke about Muslims reminded him of his own struggles. He whispered to himself, "People just want to be seen." His assistant, Lila, walked in. "You okay?" Malik looked up and smiled. "Yeah, just thinking, this interview wasn't about Muslims only, it was about all of us, every group that gets misunderstood." Lila nodded. "And every group that deserves humanity." Malik exhaled deeply. "Exactly." In a high school in New Jersey, an English teacher named Mr. Thompson paused his lesson to play a clip from the interview. The students, diverse, energetic, sometimes chaotic, fell silent as Judge Judy spoke about understanding Muslims and fighting ignorance. When the clip ended, a boy in the back raised his hand. "I didn't know Judge Judy felt like that." Another girl said, "I wish more famous people talked honestly instead of trying to sound perfect." A Muslim student named Layla spoke softly. "It means a lot hearing someone respected say we're not dangerous. People always look at me like I'm weird." The class nodded. Mr. Thompson approached her desk. "You're not weird, Layla," he said kindly. "You're brave, and voices like yours matter." The room warmed with understanding. That evening, while Emma was preparing dinner, the doorbell rang. Judy opened it carefully and found an elderly man standing there with a cane. He wore a brown coat and a warm smile. "Are you Judge Judy?" he asked gently. "Yes," she replied cautiously. "My name is Ibrahim. I live 3 blocks away." Judy smiled politely. "How can I help you?" Ibrahim held out a small paper box. "This is for you. My wife and I baked some homemade date cookies. We watched your interview." Judy felt her throat tighten. Ibrahim continued, "You spoke beautifully. You spoke with fairness. That is rare." She took the box, moved by the gesture. "Thank you," she said sincerely. "Please tell your wife I appreciate it." He bowed his head. "May God bless you, Judge Judy." When he left, Judy stood in the doorway for a long moment, deeply touched. Emma peeked out from the kitchen. "What was that?" Judy turned, holding the small box like a delicate treasure. "A thank you," she whispered quietly. "A very sweet thank you." Late that night, Judy sat by her window again. The moon cast soft light across the city. She thought about fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of the unfamiliar. Fear passed down from generation to generation. She realized something important. Fear disappears the moment you meet the person you're afraid of. Judy whispered to herself, "We fear what we don't understand, and we don't understand what we don't try to learn." She shook her head softly. How did we forget such a simple truth? Her thoughts drifted to all the Muslims she had met, the taxi driver, the nurse, the family at the iftar, the soldier who wrote her a letter, the young people she met in Bryant Park. Each one had taught her something. Each one had chipped away at her assumptions. Each one had opened her eyes. And now she realized their stories were just as American as anyone else's. The next morning, Judy sat at her desk with a notebook. She flipped through blank pages. Emma walked in. "What are you doing?" Judy took a deep breath. "I'm writing talking points." "For what?" Emma asked. Judy looked up, a soft fire in her eyes. "For Cynthia's show. I'm going." Emma broke into a proud smile. "You're really doing it?" "Yes," Judy said firmly. "If I'm going to speak, I will speak fully, publicly, fearlessly." Emma hugged her tightly. "I'm proud of you." Judy smiled. "I'm proud of me, too." She opened her notebook again. At the top of the page, she wrote,
Understanding begins with listening, and that was the beginning of her next mission. Judy spent the next few days preparing meticulously. She didn't want a script that sounded rehearsed. She wanted honesty. She wanted clarity. Emma helped her review points, suggesting questions viewers might have. How do you reconcile stereotypes with reality? Why did you choose to speak up now? What message do you have for young Muslims? Judy wrote notes on small cards, tucking them carefully into her purse. This is serious, Emma, she said, adjusting her glasses. People will be listening. Millions of eyes, millions of hearts. I want to get this right. Emma smiled. Grandma, just be you. That's why they're listening. Judy chuckled. I hope they like what they hear. The night before the interview, Judy sat in her living room with the small date cookie box from Ibrahim. She nibbled one while staring out the window, reflecting on everything that had happened. The taxi driver's words, the soldier's letter, the heartfelt emails,